Shane and Shane, wonderful Christian artists. The song is Psalm 23, Surely Goodness, Surely Mercy. I encourage you to check out their music. You're listening to 100.1 Remnant Radio, the radio station of your life. And my name is Zach Seals. We're in the last 10 minutes of our show together. Well, I've been encouraging the listeners to think about friendship and how they can be inspired to live in healthy, good friends with each other, and what we can learn specifically from C.S. Lewis and Dorothy Sayers, who were important Christian thinkers in the 20th century. And I'm playing the last bit of my interview with Gina Dalfanzo, who wrote a book called Dorothy and Jack that I really encourage you to check out if you're interested at all in C.S. Lewis and Dorothy Sayers. Let's listen to the end of this interview. Well, moving into our last segment here, tell me a little bit about why they would refer to themselves as dinosaurs. What was that term for?
Well, this came up when Lewis made the move to Cambridge. He was given a position there and asked to give an inaugural address when he started there. And that's when he famously referred to himself as a dinosaur, because he was feeling at the time that his Christian values and outlook, all the things that helped him, that he had grown up with or that he had adopted when he came to faith, the way he understood the world, all this was getting outdated. And so he referred to himself as a dinosaur who might be useful for people to study while he was still around, so that they could understand certain things, certain Christian values better, so that they could understand the generations that had come before them and what that belief system was like and what value it might still have. Sayers was not able to attend that address. She got a rundown on it from her friend Barbara Reynolds, who worked at Cambridge and who had gone to hear it. And then I think she was able to read the lecture later herself. And she was really delighted with it. She loved it because it was a lot of the same things that she had been feeling and thinking. And she told Lewis this, and he affectionately started calling her Sister Dinosaur because she was in more or less the same position, and she got it. So they were dinosaurs together, and I think that was a little bit of comfort for them both in their later years.
I thought it was interesting how you brought out that on the one side, Sayers and Lewis were a part of this growing Christian scholarship and apologetics community that seemed to be rising with this momentum. And yet, on the other side, the more secular philosophers and critics felt like they were in the minority, and both sides felt like they were in the minority.
Yeah, that's true. And it was a very, very interesting dynamic. I almost wish I had had time to go into it a little bit more. Lewis and Sayers were sometimes accused of, not giving science enough respect, which is not true. It was more a case, and this is a dynamic that still exists, so we still see this everywhere. They were not opposed to science. They were opposed to making science the be all and end all. They were opposed to letting science substitute for other things, such as religion and theology. So this was something that some of their critics didn't understand. And they actually ended up debating together after having been critically attacked. They were asked to do a debate against a couple of atheists and reportedly did very well. But they didn't really come out of it with a lot of triumphalism. I think they both still felt a little bit like dinosaurs, but they were still willing to go out there and share their views and stand up for what they believed, and hopefully help people see it a little more clearly.
Going back to that dinosaur term, I feel like Christians today, I myself at times, we can often feel like that when we say things like sex should be before marriage. Sex should only be in the context of marriage, and God's design for marriage is for a man and a woman. Abortion is wrong. These key social issues that just make us look antiquated. But seeing how Sayers and Lewis really took on that term and felt proud by it almost is, I think, encouraging.
I think they enjoyed debate and even doing battle, as I've said, but they never got arrogant about it. They never got nasty about it. It was, again, they tried to go into it with respect for their opponents and, just making sure it was a fair fight and that they were able to put their views out there, and then just hope that good came out of it because those were part of the values that perhaps made them dinosaurs a little bit, part of their Christian outlook, that you do go into battle, but you don't sulk, you don't wallow in self-pity, you just you just get out there and you say what you have to say, and hope that it helps some people.
And it's okay to not be universally acclaimed and everyone. It's okay to have critics and not be
right.
Not by that.
Right. It's okay to be a dinosaur.
Right. Well, as we come to one of our last questions, what would you say is the role of their influence on each other? And how much of that were they aware of? Would they have denied? Yeah.
Well, Lewis, of course, lived after her, and so he was left to sort of grapple with both of their legacies and their influence on each other. And he wrote in later years that he wasn't sure how much influence he had on her and how much he and his friends in general had influenced each other, because they all had such strong, distinctive personalities and voices. But I do think they encouraged each other a great deal. I think she helped open up his world and his mind a little bit to see perspectives and points of view beyond his own, to maybe understand some things about women a little bit better, and about marriage and male-female relationships in general. And I think also he had helped encourage her when she felt uncomfortable in the role of an apologist. It wasn't something that she took to very easily, writing about Christianity openly in her essays and so forth. And he kept reassuring her that she was doing good work and that she did it very well. And so I think perhaps he helped keep her on that road when she might not have stayed on it on her own.
Mm. Yeah, so many times we're just not even aware of how much our friends have a positive influence on us, but we also need to be careful about the kind of friends we take time to invest in and spend our time with. Absolutely. Well, as we come to conclude here, would you share just a few takeaway thoughts? What do you think we can learn? What are some principles we can learn and apply today in our own friendships from reading about Lewis and Sayers?
Well, again, I think the role of respect in friendship is a very important one. Just how much it helps us to see the people around us as made in the image of God. And as Lewis says somewhere, that we're all day long, we're helping each other, or we're trying to help each other get to God. And I think that helps us see people more holistically and in a more healthy way, and really helps the growth of friendship. And just not to be afraid to reach out and become friends with somebody beyond barriers, whether it's gender or ideology perhaps, or some other kind of barrier, because sometimes those become the best friendships and the ones that help us to grow the most in the long run.
Absolutely. Yeah, if you can find a way to become a dear friend with someone you really disagree with on something, that's really a character growing experience. Well, again, I want to thank you, Gina, for your work on writing this book, Dorothy and Jack, The Transforming Friendship of Dorothy Sayers and C.S. Lewis. And it just came out this year. I encourage everyone to go pick it up on Amazon. And do we have anything else upcoming from you, perhaps, that we can look forward to?
Well, actually, Dorothy and Jack is the first of 2 books of mine that have come out in 2 months. So it's been a little bit of a wild time. I have another one out called The Gospel in Dickens from Plough Publishing. And that is mainly just a collection of excerpts from Dickens' works that show how he engaged with faith. It has introduction notes and commentary by me, and a great foreword by Karen Swallow Pryor, who is a friend and a fellow Dickens enthusiast. So that is just out. So I've been promoting both of these books, and it's been a wild ride.
Wow. All right. Well, be sure to check out that book on the gospel according to Dickens as well. That sounds fascinating. We'll actually be speaking with Karen Pryor in her book on cultural engagement.
Oh, wonderful.
So I'm looking forward to that.
That's great.
Great. Well, maybe we'll have you on the show again in the future. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you.
And again, that was Gina Dalfanzo. So that's all we have time for today. Thank you so much for listening to the show. I encourage you to pick up that book, Dorothy and Jack, as well as the one by Darrell Bach I mentioned earlier called Cultural Intelligence. And unfortunately, I won't be here next week. I'll be on a short break, but I'll be back 2 weeks from now with some more interviews and encouraging message. So thank you for being with us. You're listening to 100.1 Remnant Radio, the radio station of your life. And I pray the God of endurance and encouragement grants you to live in harmony with one another in accordance with Christ Jesus. Go be transformed and see the glory of who Jesus is.
I never did like the word mediocre. I never wanted it to be said of me.